It was a surprise, wasn't it? I don't think many people had thought that Liverpool were going to do that kind of business this window. According to people at United, I think they were aware of it. Erik ten Hag has the same agent as Cody Gakpo, so I'm sure it's not a surprise to him. And the idea is that United were weighing it up. They were looking at whether they could afford it. Basically, could they put it on the credit card again, as they've put quite a few transfers on in recent years. And it got to a point where they actually decided, no, we're not going to do that. Now, I don't know what that means for the takeover talks, the sale, because in my mind, and other people that I speak to would think that, okay, if it's going to be a takeover, then it's the next person's problem what the kind of financial situation is. So maybe that would loosen the purse strings. This is kind of hypothetical. I'm just kind of musing here without necessarily knowing all the ins and outs. But ultimately, they did have these conversations about spending money. That was why, we wrote a piece about Cody Gakpo being a possibility, but they've decided that actually it's going to be loans. We knew in the summer they'd overspent. We've seen the straightened finances. The fact that, the cash in the bank has gone down from like 300 million at one point it was in 2019 to now 24 million. And that's only because they've, again, used this revolving credit facility. So that's what they're looking at. And then, Liverpool basically had a free run. I think there's people at United that think if they'd have gone for him, he would have chosen United because of the Erik ten Hag link, because of the kind of stature, I suppose, of United and the chance to perform at Old Trafford. But there was always, and as Carl's referenced in different pieces, there was always this kind of debate amongst the recruitment staff, scouts, that was Cody Gakpo the right player to start at centre forward? Yes, he started at centre forward for the Netherlands, but his best position is off the left, and kind of drifting in and 1-2s and things like that. Erik ten Hag, I'm pretty sure, was convinced that he could have had him in the squad and performing effectively in a team up front. They had these conversations in the summer, so it was kind of the same discussions that were going on again coming up to this point. They agreed personal terms with Cody Gakpo in the summer. Ultimately, the Antony deal, as we know, Ajax were determined to get 100 million euros, so that the price just wasn't palatable to do both. But yeah, it means that United, whatever reason, they've decided not to go for him, and fine if they think it's a football thing, but it does leave United in a difficult position now where, they're having to look at loans and kind of low-cost centre-forwards. People, as Carl's mentioned, Memphis Depay, with 6 months left on their contract. Okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely
I'll wait
get
a second.
into that. Just give us a moment. Let us reflect on missing out on Gakpo before we
so
talk
do we need
about
a moment for that as well? Moment for Casemiro,
Andy,
moment for Gakpo.
Just hand it over to Andy.
Erik ten Hag wanted Cody Gakpo at Manchester United. That is a fact. Manchester United overspent in the summer, as Laurie said, and United have decided not to make another outlay. Probably because there's no money to do that, and that's why I might be looking at loans in January. It's purely financial. Manchester United completely overspent in the summer, and because the Glazers are willing to sell the club, they might be thinking, we'll do what we want to do now. We're not as desperate to appease the fans. The fans don't like us. The fans are protesting every week, as they did before the Forest game. We can take a harder line on this, and they've chosen not to go for Cody Gakpo. The manager wants a striker. The manager probably wants 5 new players. The financial reality is biting, and Laurie used the term maxed out on the credit card. That is accurate, and you could look at it the other way. Manchester United have got a very, very good squad, but the squad always needs improving, and you can say we need a striker there. I spoke to someone last night who said, if Anthony Martial, and don't groan at this everybody, if Anthony Martial is fit, he is fantastic. Obviously the issue is his fitness, because his goals and assists per minute ratio is actually quite impressive for a low scoring team.
I'm going to tease people even further. I've not just stopped Laurie talking about who else Manchester United might be going for now. I'm now going to ask a question which doesn't even reference that, so you're going to have to wait a little bit longer to find out who Manchester United might be looking at as an alternative. Carl, you've had the pleasure or the mispleasure with Phil Hay of writing a piece entitled "What Liverpool Can Expect from Cody Gakpo." I mean, that must have been enjoyable.
Yeah, so I've spent quite a bit of the pre-World Cup section of the season looking into Cody Gakpo because, well,
that was time well spent.
Yeah, I thought he was absolutely brilliant, and I thought
for Liverpool subscribers on the Athletic, it will be.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I believe the Tifo video I did before the World Cup started has been watched by many a Liverpool fan recently as well. As Laurie,
that's gone up a little bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, as Laurie said, it wasn't a Gakpo to Manchester United isn't an instant win. He prefers primarily to play on the left-hand side of a 4-3-3 when he's at PSV Eindhoven. Up until the World Cup, he played as a number 10 behind two strikers for the Netherlands. And then it was only in the later games at the World Cup that he played in the front two next to Memphis Depay. And even then, Memphis Depay said he would prefer playing next to Steven Bergwijn rather than Cody Gakpo because he thinks Gakpo's passing is
Memphis,
better.
Isn't it?
Memphis has calmed down a bit, but he's still Dutch. He's still
there.
He's still Dutch. He's still got that Dutch straightforwardness.
Sure.
So yes, Gakpo wouldn't have been an immediate win. I think if he came in, that probably would have freed up Marcus to be the number 9 behind Martial for the rest of the season. And then going forward, Gakpo's arrival would have provoked some very serious questions as to what happens next with Jadon Sancho. And depending on whether or not you'll want to give up on Jadon Sancho yet, maybe it's not the worst thing in the world that Gakpo's not here. I'm pulling a big face and shutting my eye here and doing a hand gesture.
Garnacho as well is affected by him, and again another promising cameo from him last night. Exciting.
Not the worst thing in the world that Cody Gakpo is not a Manchester United player. It was going to sting a bit because he's a good player and will probably be very good for Liverpool, but that's the way the world works.
So it's not going to work out for him at Anfield. We've decided that already, so that's good. Good luck with that. Laurie, go on then. Who else might Manchester United be looking for? You got out Depay before I shut you down.
Well, I mean, this is it though. We were discussing it. I don't think there's not loads. There's not like they're going to pull a rabbit out of a hat. I spoke to.
Well, it's because of the criteria, isn't it? It has to be someone who fits the profile, but it has to be someone who fits the profile financially as well. It sounds like it's going to more likely be a loan or a very low-cost signing. So the criteria is really, really specific. Now
that United have made this decision on the finances, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if they don't sign anybody because because it is so specific, as you say. So, for example, in the summer, they were looking at Alvaro Morata. He was someone they considered seriously. Then the price became, ridiculous for what they saw him as. He's not a low-cost option. He's €35 million transfer fee plus wages, I think 50 million, something like that, total cost. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, another player they looked at, he went to Chelsea, and it's not really, it's been fine, I suppose, for Chelsea, but it's not like, United are looking at that with envious eyes. So it's that kind of severe. I mean, I mentioned Maxim Choupo-Moting at Bayern Munich. He's got 6 months. I'm kind of more speculating that. I don't know that United are looking at him in particular. I know there has been some reports, but it's that kind of calibre, and it does kind of, for all that maybe Cody Gakpo wasn't the exact right player for United. You look at Liverpool and you just think, well, they take assertive action. They kind of let other teams do the running. Darwin Núñez with United last summer, Luis Diaz with Tottenham Hotspur last January, and then they get these players in, and it feels more like, okay, we're motoring, we're being smooth with what we do. It's quick, it's efficient. United kind of just drags out, and you get names linked, and it's discussion over that, and kind of let's debate this. So it kind of, whatever the ultimate result of this is, in terms of the Cody Gakpo situation, it does just kind of strike as more of United kind of, have they moved on from the kind of things that they've been doing in the past? I mean, I suppose you could look at it and go, the contract situation is what they want to focus on, maybe. We touched on Marcus Rashford then, and his contract. I think they do need to get that sorted, because you want to show him the love and you want to extend that contract, and they are in talks over that. But can you not So maybe that's where, in terms of the Ronaldo money, maybe that's where they're looking at, okay, enhancing other players' contracts. But you do think they've saved a lot of money on Cristiano Ronaldo. Is there really nothing you could do? But yeah, I don't know. Carl, you kind of wanted to chip in there, and I kind of cut you off.
No, I think you made a really good point in the difference between Liverpool and United. And I think, as you said with Diaz and Nunez, Liverpool are able to do these sorts of deals because when Cody Gakpo arrives at Liverpool, he doesn't necessarily need to be the best version of Cody Gakpo in January, right? He can have some time to adjust. Diaz will come back. He can have a nice little duel with Diaz for the left-hand side, or if he wants to play as number 10, he can battle with other strong players there. Whereas anyone who comes to Manchester United pretty much has to hit the ground running. And that's been a long-standing theme for Manchester United players for a while. We've talked earlier about how Anthony had a great game, and he's sort of, relying on the credit he's got in the bank for scoring on his debut goal for a little bit more. And Casemiro was one of those players that the moment he arrived, I went, "Where's Casemiro? Why is he not starting immediately?" And there's none of that slow adjustment period that happens for Manchester United players, which makes everything difficult because there aren't many players out there who are less than 24 million, can hold the ball up, can occupy the last line of defence, but can also pass the ball and run in behind as well. And anyone that does will likely look at Manchester United's squad and go, "Oh, well, this gentleman over here earns the better part of £150,000 a week. Can I earn £150,000 a week as well?" Which makes it all really, really difficult. So, yeah, I think it's not just Ten Hag trying to build a squad for a future, but he's still having to de-weed and unclutter the sins of the past, which makes it all massively hectic. And maybe Garnacho might end up being that, if United don't sign anyone, could you see Garnacho playing through the middle a little bit more?